So, Stephen, we're working through the partner journey in 10 steps. Here we are at number 8. Now, we're fellow partners in this firm. We're sitting here having that awful meeting that we both dread because it's called an appraisal, when I'm the biggest earner in the firm and you as the managing partner have the nerve to come and appraise me and see how I'm doing in the firm. So how are we going to have this conversation in terms of my annual appraisal? It's almost ridiculous that we should be having this discussion in the first place.
So I think one starts those conversations by massaging the ego that you have, clearly.
Please, I'm pleased to hear that. Thank God for that.
We're talking about, I have your numbers in front of me. Those numbers are absolutely fabulous. You've done even better than you did last year. You are a great financial contributor to this firm. What I'd like to spend this time, and I agree with you, I think appraisal is completely the wrong word. This is about how you can help the firm. And to an extent, if there's any way we can help you, I'd like to come on and talk about that.
Yeah.
So I think, in short, you have to try and work through each individual partner by reference to how they see their contribution. And I would then begin to turn that contribution to around, are you bringing other partners into your client relationships? Are you working with other partners on the matters? Could you be doing more in terms of, to use that dreadful word, cross-selling our other departments? I'd be talking about your people management, and I might then introduce some KPIs that I'd looked at to prepare for the proposal. I kind of know that given the role you're playing, that arrogance, you won't have looked at any of that. Yeah. But I might say, well, one thing I did want to talk about is you seem to have lost 50% of your team in the last year. Why do you think that is? How could we help you keep some of those people longer? Because clearly that's going to make your life easier. So I'd be trying to work in some of those KPIs.
So how to position this as opposed to the annual conversation with the headmaster, where we expect to be told off, but you're going to be kind enough to start off with the good news. I see it coming, Murray, you've done very well this year. I know there's going to be a however. How do we make this a conversation about partner development? And how do we say, Stephen, this is the time of year, as you know, when we get to hear what you think has gone well in your practice this year, and anything that we can do to help you and develop that going forward. We know that the HR department requires us to write that down, and then we check in on a regular basis to see how we're doing. Are we not? Should this not be the priority for helping you get to where you want to get to and understanding your motivation better, as opposed to this awkwardness about appraising you around KPIs and around metrics?
I agree completely. I mean, you often talk about, we certainly shouldn't use the word appraisal, but we should talk about it as being part of partner development. I still think you're going to have difficult conversations, with the role you began playing and the managing partner who's a low biller.
Yeah. Well, that's the question. So is this a conversation when we talk about money? Is this the annual punch-up over money when I see you coming? Because you don't want to pay me as much because I notice the other departments are not doing very well. You're going to ask me to give up my money and contribute more to the other departments. Is this the money conversation or is this something different?
So I agree with you. I think the two are conflated in many firms, that there's the, whatever we call it, the what you could do better, how can we help you conversation. And the consequence of all that is you get paid X. Yeah. And that's all wrapped into that one conversation. I think a couple of things. I think if this is the only conversation we're having this year, then the managing partner has failed in his or her job. We particularly somebody as important to the firm as you clearly are in the role you're playing.
Thank you very much.
I should have had 3-4 conversations throughout the year, checking in. And therefore, this isn't this shock horror appraisal, how much am I going to pay you meeting. It's a continuum of a conversation. And I think even in large firms, and that may have to tear down a bit. So practice group heads have those conversations, not necessarily the managing partner, with every partner, but a senior leader having these conversations regularly and focusing them on, as you say, development, how the firm can help you, how you can help the firm to the greater success. How can we together grow the pie so you earn more and everyone else earns more? Yeah. I wouldn't necessarily use that language, but it's about the success of the firm. We talked in a previous session about success of any law firm isn't just monetary success. It's a broader range of measures of success.
So this is you as a leader helping me, coaching or mentoring me to do better, or is this the remuneration committee? And this is really about the hard numbers?
Well, as I say, often these conversations are conflated. And I think in some firms, that's the way it probably should be done. Yeah. But you can still have it as a broader conversation around who can help who, how can we develop, et cetera, et cetera. You can then move on to, and as a consequence of that, you're going to be at level 42. And that's an improvement on last year, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm not adverse to having, completely isolated conversations because, in a sense, although you're implying, and I don't disagree with you, it would be better to separate, you're then in danger of, when you have this pure remuneration conversation, of it being equally problematic because you're having to talk about the development issues. So actually having it as a broader conversation, I think is important. I think the other critically important thing, two things. One is you've got to have had the right remuneration system in the first place. So we talked earlier about reviewing your remuneration system. Yeah. So having something that partners buy into, so at least even if you complain about it, you accept that that's the remuneration system we have. And therefore I'm delivering a message by reference to the system. And then the second thing, and we've talked about this before, is the trust you need to have in the system, that it's been fairly allocated. You're 42 for a good reason, not just because of the Douglas Adams book, It's the Meaning of Life.
Yes, yeah. And I like the concept that it's the trust in the system, and you're helping me understand and navigate the system, and then it's not you. Because you do get the extent to which who is able to assess who in the firm and what that looks like, and the issues we see on a daily basis of, I'm the oldest lawyer in the firm, I bring in the biggest practice, and who's going to evaluate me against that? So in terms of the three things that people should or shouldn't do, the first one I've written down on my list is preparation. So you've talked a bit about the preparation. Well, what are the other golden rules of I don't want to call it the appraisal meeting. What are we calling this? It's not an appraisal meeting.
But I think we can just call it a partner meeting, It's just the partner, I'm as managing partner, I'm meeting with all the partners. Okay. I think, as you say, we've got to de-emphasize this. It's a really bad word. Yeah. I agree with you. So I think preparation, in that I need to have looked at the numbers and the KPIs we have had. I also need to collect the non-data KPIs. I need to have had some conversations with the partners you work with. I need to have formed a view as to how they think you're performing and how you're seeing. And ideally, I would have had, as part of my role as managing partner, some conversations with clients who will have also referenced you. So I'll have some reference points both within the firm and hopefully external to the firm about the things you've been doing. And therefore I can talk about them. I can talk about client X being particularly happy with the work you did on job Y, which is a nice thing to build into the conversation. So I think making sure that preparation isn't just looking at the numbers. It's that broader perspective. I think secondly, I need to understand in preparation for that meeting how you fit in to the strategy of your department and the firm, because I think one of the things I should be talking to you about as you become more senior is that role you play in driving the strategy of the firm forward. What more can we do to meet that strategic goal? Yeah. Could you do something slightly differently? Yeah. How can we? So thinking about where we're trying to get to rather than where we've come from. And I think the third element is to understand the issues that you personally have. So you seem to be highly fixated on money. Usually, when I was having those sorts of conversations, there was a divorce involved. I'm suddenly supporting 2 families. I need double the salary. And
How did you guess? Was it that obvious?
well, I
told
don't
you.
know. So I think not necessarily walking into that trap, but asking questions so I understand what's motivating you, what's driving you, what's challenging you.
And I think,
I have to treat you as a human.
well, I was going to say, when we survey associates about what is good leadership and bad leadership and what do you want, the word empathy is the one that comes up highest. And then when we do the survey of partners, we know that empathy is one of the lowest factors.